Why did you call it Lost Children Archive?
Well, the title, unfortunately, has somehow gained a new meaning now, right? But that is also the power and the elasticity of language. When I first thought of that title, it was my working title in 2014, and I was thinking about children who had lost the right to childhood and children who were not being seen or heard. I was not thinking about children like the children we think of now as lost children who have been lost by this administration's separation policy and having lost track of whose kid is whose parent and are therefore lost within the loop of this system. Unfortunately now, this title also somehow references that what we think of now as lost children.
You write that Lost Children Archive is more a questioning of how and where we should stand in order to document political violence.
Right. I started writing this novel, and at the same time as I was writing it, I was working as a volunteer screener and translator in the Court of Immigration here in New York, listening to children's testimonies and stories in an attempt to, among many other volunteers, by the way, in an attempt to get their stories clear and then find a lawyer that might represent them and help them against a deportation order. This was right after the priority docket was created by the Obama administration that basically served as a way to expedite removals of undocumented, unaccompanied children. And so, of course, I started using the novel as a kind of depository or vessel of my own political frustration, rage, sadness, confusion. And I also started really ruining the novel, stuffing it with all of that, while also not really doing justice to the issue. I was trying to thread it into a fictional narrative, and so I stopped writing it altogether. I wrote Tell Me How It Ends, which a book that we've spoken about here before, which is a much more straightforward take, a kind of X-ray of the American immigration system, and also an X-ray of this particular diaspora involving children. And once I wrote that book, I was able to return to the novel and think of it as a space that was more multi-layered and less stuffed, more porous, that reflects on where we should stand to bear witness, and not so much, it's not so much a hammer, a political hammer, as it is a space of reflection about our own space of enunciation when we think about political violence.